Do you want to start eating healthier? Maybe it's because you want to build your immune system, maybe it's because you want to lose weight, or maybe it's because you just want to be a little bit healthier and you'll kind of get those benefits off the back of just eating healthier anyway. And do you know what healthy eating is? Because there's a lot of discussion in the media, on social media, between professionals, between the public, about what they think healthy eating is. And what I'm going to do is try and explain 6 essential steps or 6 essential components or 6 essential fundamentals what make up healthy eating. So hopefully by the end of this you will understand some of those fundamentals that you can start putting into play to start eating healthier. And I want to start by sharing with you a quote from a book called Food Politics, which you can't quite see over my shoulder there. It's tucked away on the bookshelf there. But it's probably the best summary of healthy eating that I've been able to find. And it's, as an academic nutritionist, which is the author of the book, I grapple on a daily basis with what I see as the central contradiction between nutrition theory and practice. On one hand, our advice about the health benefits of a diet based largely on food plants, fruits, vegetables, grains, has not changed in more than 50 years and is consistently supported by ongoing research. On the other hand, people seem increasingly confused about what they are supposed to eat to stay healthy. Now, there is a little bit of detail that we need to go into that, which we're going to look at next in the 6 fundamentals, because I know some people are going to be up in arms about largely plant foods. You know, you shouldn't be doing that, this, that, and the other. So just calm, and we'll talk through all of that when we get there. But the essential part of this is there is consistent information and a consensus of information that's been around for since certainly writing this book for 50 years. So it's stood the test of time, which is where good quality scientific information comes from. And again, what people are doing, as she mentions, they're still confused about what to eat. So what we're going to do in the next slide is we're going to start opening up and start talking about those 6 fundamentals, steps, or components of healthy eating. As you can see, the 6 components, steps, or fundamentals are on the screen. They're very simple, and that is, in some respects, the basis of what healthy eating is. It's a very simple diet. There are a lot of people out there that will try to overcomplicate it. There are some out there that will throw in all the buzzwords, technical science, and things like that. But all we have to understand as the general public, as it were, is the fundamentals. Because one thing I have found through all the diet books that I've read and all the content that comes through on websites and on the internet is they're all talking about the same foods. So where the angle and the anatomy that they're talking about and the certain hormones and this, that and the other is all different, what they're talking about are essentially the same foods. So point number 1, or step number 1, is eating the appropriate amount. Now, I've stayed away of saying eat a certain amount of calories because I don't think calories is a useful measurement in so much as the amount that you should be eating. But what it does do is it does give you a framework to work within. So there is a use to it, but I don't like the whole way that the calories conversation has gone. But with that said, it is a useful framework and measurement to use because it gives you, you're able to quantify how much you're eating. So that's sort of the part 1 of that. What you can then do is start to, instead of just looking at calories, just essentially look at yourself. If it's a weight loss goal, if you've been gaining weight, there's a good chance you're eating too much. So start eating less. Doesn't matter how less, but start eating less. See if it makes a difference. If it does, and it's the difference that you want it to make, then continuing eating that amount. If you still want to lose more, just drop it down a little bit more. See if that has a knock-on effect. Because if you start eating less, it drops and then it plateaus, then you then might need to just start dropping down again. Now again, that's not the full conversation. I don't want to say that it is. There is more to it than that. But from a general perspective, number 1 is we need to eat the right amount of food. The second one is eating whole foods. Now, by whole foods, I mean a potato, a broccoli, a carrot. So it's not, in some respects, intermingled with all of these different E numbers, all these different types of emulsifiers and taste enhancers and all these other bits and pieces that sort of come along with it. Now, we want to be eating the whole food. So essentially what I'm saying is when you look at an ingredients list, you can read the ingredients. You know what they are. It's a potato, it's a carrot, it's a, whatever. But it's a piece of food that you recognise what it is. When you've got all these big long words, as a general rule, those are the types of things that you might need to be removing from one's diet. Now, with that said, those types of E numbers and all those additives, they are everywhere. So certainly to start with, if you can start reducing them, you're going to be moving in the right direction. Number 2 is eat mostly plant-based foods. So when in the quote she talks about largely based on plant foods, that's what we mean. The plant-based diet in this modern era has sort of been bastardized, if you will, and it's sort of turned into vegan, which there is a place for that. It does have uses. You can be healthy there, but you don't have to be. There are animal foods that you can eat as long as it's not in excessive amounts, and you can be sensible with that, which is why it's mostly plant foods or largely based on plant foods. So I don't know what the percentages are. That would have to be looked at in a little bit more detail, but let's just say 80-20. 80% plant foods, 20% animal foods. 70% plant foods, 30% animal foods. So again, it's just being sensible with the ratios because, as research will suggest, plant foods are the healthier foods. They are the ones that are always associated with health. There are very few plant foods that are associated with ill health. Number 4, drink more water. We have to be sensible again with drinking water, so we've got to drink the right amount of water. But when we talk about fluids, what we're essentially talking about is water. That's the universal solvent that the body wants, if you will. When you've got a drink with water in it, it may have some uses, but you've then got the other stuff that's been added to it. So one of the big ones is a cup of tea, where that might have its uses. It's a diuretic, so you will have a sort of water loss from that. That would need to be replaced by actually drinking water. So water is the one fluid that is what the body wants. Number 5, eat organic food where possible. Now, this is added in because of the way food production has gone in the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. It's gone more towards mass production, which has gone towards the use of chemicals, the use of genetically modified foods, so on and so forth. So what we need to try and do is get let's just call it the original food. That will give us the most nutrition. Now, even with that, because the soils are depleted these days, there will be a part of organic where there will be less nutrition in the foods, simply because of how intensively farmed some farmland can be. So again, we have to watch that. So again, there are nuances and caveats that need to come with that. But essentially, when we're eating organic food, we're just getting the food, we're getting the fibre, we're getting the vitamins, we're getting the minerals that we need from those foods to be able to then process within the body to be healthy. And then the final one is eat locally sourced food. Not only does that have an environmental impact, but also as soon as the food is picked, it starts to degrade itself. It will start, in a sense, consuming itself. Hence why food goes rotten eventually. It's essentially the food consuming itself. So the closer we can get it to being picked, the healthier it's going to be, the more nutrition that's going to be within that food. Again, the freezing process and the keeping the food cold does have an effect on that and does slow that process. But if we've got a local grower with a shop, we are best getting the foods from there because not only has it travelled less, there will be more nutrition in it if we're buying it on the morning that it was picked. So it's very much a very simple diet with those 6 points just all sort of built in together, which are going to give you the healthiest diet. And as I've mentioned, this diet is a very simple diet. Again, there is a learning process that comes with knowing what foods, when the foods are around locally, so on and so forth. So again, this is just talking about those 6 components. I'm not saying everyone must do it, everyone has to do it, and you have to start tomorrow. There is a learning process that comes to it because everyone has eating habits, and in some respects we have to reduce on certain habits to build others up. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. Hopefully it's given you a better idea of what a healthy diet looks like, or at least the components of it, which we can then start exploring in future videos. So many thanks for watching. My name is Chris. I'll speak to you in the next tutorial.